As in a mirror, the history of civilization is reflected in our clothes. Now, it is more than the second skin, and fashion and style have become a way of self-expression. It is absolutely in style of the Kazakhs to see a deep symbolism, speak through things, objects, and rituals and material surrounding. Therefore, the history of national costume is a wonderful world, revealing our mentality.
From time immemorial, people began to dress and decorate themselves, creating a diverse world of costume. Once ancient people learned to weave the plainest fabrics and sew the most primitive robes, the clothes became a way of protection from the weather, and then it turned into a sign and a symbol. Nowadays, clothing helps people to showcase their taste and serves as a means of fashion experiments. Today, we will talk about the style that was introduced in ancient times. Its footprints can be found in our modern costume and design. Fashionable clothing is a sign of the times, a preference given for a short time, not forever. At the same time, each person and each nation have their own costume traditions. In some countries, people wear only ethnic clothes, while in other countries, on the contrary, they follow all kinds of fashion trends. In this sense, Kazakh people are versatile. They eagerly dress in modern and fashionable clothes, while at the same time, they remember their national roots and historical trends. Experts believe that this is a consequence of a well-preserved historical consciousness. And designers and stylists point out the popularity of ethnic theme in the fashion industry. The famous animal style has every chance to become a kind of response to the fashion trend of returning back to the roots. Once it was created by nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes, which the Persians called the Saka and the Greeks Scythians. This was the early Iron Age. Archaeologists coined the concept of a Scythian triad, which includes weapons, horse equipment, and the animal style. It was an ornamental style created with the influence of the images of animals, images that reflected the natural world. It perfectly demonstrates the appearance of animals that lived in antiquity on the territory of modern Kazakhstan. This style was a reflection of the diversity of flora and fauna. For example, if you take the area of the Altai Mountains, there were images of a leopard, argali, mountain goat, golden eagle, and snake. This fauna was similar to the inhabitants of the Alatau Mountains. However, animals in the steppe were quite different. These lands were inhabited by the Samarkand tribes. Today, it is a territory of Kizilorda and Aralsk. In that area, images of mainly camels and wolves were found. This is a unique difference. Also, the image of the saiga antelope was often used in the animal style. It was another inhabitant of the steppes. Certain types and methods of clothes production were borrowed from nomads. Think of the pants, for instance. This type of clothing was invented when people needed to wear something comfortable while riding. Another example is outerwear with a slit in front and left side wrap, a prototype of a chapan. In the 1920s, the famous scholar, paleontologist Sergei Rudenko studied the national clothes of the Kazakhs, comparing it with the samples of clothes that archaeologists excavated in the mounds. He discovered the continuity of cultural traditions in the costume, traditions that were 2,000 years old. Take, for example, the outfit of the Golden Man, which was found in Issyk Mound during excavations of the bureaus of representatives of the Saka elite. His costume was decorated with more than 4,000 pieces of gold jewelries, and all of the designs were made in the animal style. There were images of a leopard, elk, mountain goat, argali, horse, and various birds. One can see magic in the images of the animals. Each of the work looks animated. You can immediately imagine a mountain goat that quickly climbs the steepest slopes of the mountain. And at the same time you think, I wish my horse could climb hills so easily. And a golden eagle soaring in the sky? Yes, these are the images that were used in our national emblem. A horned horse, a leopard with spread wings. There is a lot of symbolism in it. There is a deep meaning behind all of this. The properties of each animal are revealed in these works. The animals are honored and respected as they deserve it. Thanks to this, the animal style is revived again. It is reborn. Thus, in our history, animal style plays a special role. Now, pay attention to the art of jewelry making of our ancestors. How small were those seams that connected the parts of the jewelry? Masters of the Saka era were able of making some amazing things. We have these sketches, and they show how golden parts were soldered to each other, millimeter by millimeter, forming ornaments. Ancient jewelers have reached perfection in the art of jewelry making. Masters who lived and worked in a nomadic environment were the founders of the methodology for working with various materials, and they greatly contributed to the technological achievements of mankind. The Kazakhs have the following sayings. The way the craftsman hammers a nail shows his skills, or a real carpenter has a sharp knife. This is the evidence of the respect that craftsmen and professionals were treated with. And this was despite the fact that each region had its own standards in jewelry making. But one thing was invariable: the Zergers were especially respected, because it was thanks to them that the national craft has flourished. Thanks to the findings in Altai and excavations in Kazakhstan, the world has recently discovered the art of the Saka animal style. The public was surprised. A great collection of metal, felt, wood, and leather objects decorated with images of rams, leopards, wild boars, deer, mountain goats, tigers, and swans was found. A modern person would see that the ancient nomads were probably very much fond of elegant ornaments on clothes and accessories. This is noticeable in the perfection and skill with which the appliques on the garments from the burial places in Altai were made. These appliques resembled the most exquisite embroidery. There were other tricks that would appeal to modern fashionistas. During the excavation of Saka mounds in Chilik in Shingistau, hundreds and thousands of small, tiny pieces of gold were found. It is known that gold dissolves at a temperature of more than 1,000 degrees. And the pieces of gold that were found were created without completely dissolving the metals. This is an indicator of very great skills. And we are not talking about some exceptional objects. After all, approximately 20 to 30,000 of those were found. This is similar to the modern rhinestones that decorate women's dresses today. And back then, it was gold dust that decorated people's clothes. For quite some time now, the Scythian gold expression is being used as the name of various interesting projects in the fashion industry. For example, Crimea hosted the Eurasian Championship of Hairdressers, Makeup Artists, and Masters of Nail Art Design, or Manicure Specialists. This competition was called the Scythian Gold. In 2013, Russian designer Valentin Yudashkin presented his collection at the Fashion Weeks in Paris and Moscow. This collection is known as the Scythian Gold. Museum expositions, jewelry fairs, magazine articles are also called the Scythian Gold. As for the animal style, it is still one of the most popular design techniques. Bracelets, brooches, earrings, rings, pendants decorated with figures of animals and birds are often worn by modern fashionistas. There were excavations of the burial ground of the ancient period. There, at the feet of the skeleton, 140 asiks or dice were found, and among them, there were asiks with holes punctured in them. Apparently, these holes were punctured for a reason. It had some special meaning. In those days, men wore bones around their necks. These were their totems that revered animals. And judging by these findings, we are dealing with the first amulets. At different times, the animal style was also expressed in jewelry. The claws of big wild animals such as wolf, wild boar, or mountain leopard were used in jewelry making. Not only amulets were used as totems, but also all kinds of original jewelry, pieces of a meteorite or natural stones, which were obtained as a result of a lightning strike. It was archaeological findings that allowed scholars to find out the fact that in Saka society, women and men had equal rights. Burials of noble nomads and female nomads form a kind of golden army. In 2012, for instance, archaeologists discovered one of the mounds of the Saka-Samartian period in the Taksai complex in the west of Kazakhstan. It was a tomb of a woman of royal descent. As it was established, the body of the princess, who was dressed in precious clothes, was burned. When the archaeologists opened the tomb, her ash literally crumbled. Restoration artist Krim Altinbekov managed to accomplish almost the impossible. He reconstructed many of the artifacts that were almost lost. The finding was called Altin Khanshayim, or the Taksay princess. Her outfit greatly contributed to our understanding of the Saka style. Another grave with lots of gold jewelry pieces was discovered during excavations in the east of Kazakhstan in 2013. It was also a grave of a noble female nomad. The finding was called the Urjar princess, and she has enriched the history of the costume of the early nomads. By the way, it was these outfits and other archaeological findings of the unique Golden Army that served as reference points for costume designers of the historical drama Tomiris, a film that tells a story of a famous queen of nomadic tribes. Images in the animal style are usually found in the outfits as well as in the tattoos of the nomad women. One of them is known as the Princess of Ukok. Her grave was found at the end of the 20th century in the burial mounds of the Iron Age in Altai. This woman lived in the 5th to 3rd centuries BC. It is interesting that when some authors want to look back at the distant past, when the Kazakh ethnic groups have not existed yet, they often choose the Saka era. And it is quite understandable because when the history of the nomadic costume is concerned, the Saka era is considered as one of the most interesting periods. It is great when the fashion industry and designers utilize the images that refer to the animal style. I think that it is right. I would like to mention that the influence of the Saka culture of the animal style in fashion is quite common. Such a revival is only beneficial as we emphasize the depth and importance of our history, so it is vital to know our origins. If researchers and designers will gradually introduce these images, this style into people's consciousness, when they will start to make it popular in their communities, then our historical fashion will gain new fame in the world. I believe we should actively show and demonstrate to the world that our ancestors had these jewelries, these beautiful things. So what was the history of this unique style? The famous archaeologist Fedorov Davidov once wrote in his work, "The animal style of the first millennium BC continued to live in hundreds of works of medieval art." It was widespread among the Slavs in Central Asia and in medieval Iran. It made its way into Europe in the scenes of animal torments and fights. The style made it to the Golden Horde era in the works of applied art of the medieval steppes of Eurasia. In some designer garments, there are patterns that are more intrinsic in Saka ornamental art than in modern Kazakh culture. And it's great that this is in demand. Using the animal style in fashion, we promote our deep historical past, revive national history.
көрініс тапса, ол керісінше біздің жаңағы ұлттық тарихымызды жаңғырту, ұлағаттау мақсатында болған үлкен жұмыстардың бірі деп айта аламыз.
In the 3rd to 2nd centuries BC, animal style was replaced by polychrome style, whereby jewelers started to inlay jewelries with precious and semi-precious stones. They invented new methods of decoration. And still back then, zoomorphic theme was still widespread. At the end of the 1930s, the most remarkable set of ancient jewelry was found in the Kargali Gorge near Alma-Ata. The main piece of jewelry was called the Kargali diadem. Writer Yuri Dombrovsky even described the story of the discovery of the treasure in his book, Guardian of Antiquity. In 1939, the workers of the Kargali clothing factory went hunting. It began to rain, and they took shelter in a cave. And suddenly, under their feet, as Dombrovsky describes, golden plates were discovered. These plates were the artifacts, Kargali diadem and other items. There were about 300 pieces of jewelries, which were brought by hunters to our museum. This was a truly random find. Later, the researcher Dublitsky conducted excavations at that place. There were no gold artifacts anymore, but he managed to find a copper fragment of a spoon and 2 fragments of native gold.
Исследования на этом месте, провели раскопки, и уже бляшек им не было найдено, но он обнаружил там небольшой предмет из бронзы, фрагменты ложечки и 2 кусочка самородного золота.
Scientists are speculating about what these fantastic animals, birds, humans, and trees could represent. It is believed that this was how the ancient people thought of the world around them, that it is divided into 3 parts. The diadem is decorated with a sophisticated plant ornament intertwined with birds, animals, and people. Birds were a symbol of the upper world. Animals and people symbolize the middle part of the world. And the interweaving of floral ornaments with their roots, this was the lower part of the world. So these were 3 opinions combined into one. This is a story about how the world is divided into 3 parts.
То есть корнями, которые уходят вниз, это нижняя часть мира. То есть как бы были бы 3 эти мнения, но они как бы переплетаются в одну трактовку, да? То есть деление миров на 3 части.
Connoisseurs of beautiful things are also impressed by these works of art that were made by some nameless craftsmen of the past. More than 600 of these golden objects are associated with the Scythian Saka period. This treasure was also discovered in the Almaty region. This treasure was named after the village Jalauli, where it was found. In 1989, school children were playing on the banks of a canal when they discovered a felt bag. It was filled with plates. Among them were, as you can see here, a pectoral made of gold, various drop-shaped plates. Here you can see sculptural images of a deer. There are also pendants made of golden grain, paired and tripled. These are the things that decorated the clothes of the Saka ancient leaders. A breastplate similar to the pectorals from the Jalauli treasure can be used to decorate any star on the red carpet or the film heroine of a nomadic historical drama. It is noteworthy that in 2009, the National Bank minted the Jalauli treasure coin, on the reverse of which a golden deer from the collection of Saka treasures was depicted. There is an example when the animal style migrated from clothes and jewelry directly to the streets. A few years ago, an arch symbolizing the 1,000-year history of the city was installed in Almaty. In the compositional ensemble, there is an image of apple trees, but the ornamental elements were borrowed from the jewelry that was found in the Saka mounds. The ancient nomads' works of art are now harmoniously embedded in the landscape of a megalopolis. Some domestic designers decided to use the fruits of ageless beauty too. In the design of buildings and premises, they resort to stucco molding in the Saka style. Usually, these are plaster friezes with images of animals, horseback riders, stylized argali, and etc.
Unusual stucco molding makes the interior unique.
As you can see, historical trends are now reinterpreted, not only by designers but also by artists and architects. Features of each nation are reflected in clothing and national costumes. Take the Kazakh people, with its rich history and culture, the origins of which go back to ancient times. Our ancestors were strong, they were nomads, they were warriors. In modern clothes, one can recognize the echoes of that era. Abroad, in Europe and other countries, designers pay attention to us, to the Kazakh style, to everything Oriental. Because the world is in demand of ethnic national style, including clothing. I think one can raise interest in this among young people. Unusual stucco molding makes the interior look unique. Domestic clothing manufacturers are trying to predict what will be in demand in the market in the near future. But they already have one landmark in mind. They know that for many Kazakhs, it is still important to acknowledge their roots, traditions, and achievements of their predecessors. And a costume, as always, can help with this. Our task today is to understand in which direction fashion will move further in 2020, 2021, and 2022. According to forecasts, you have to prepare everything you need for exclusive clothing production and shows, patterns, sewing technology. You need to alter your clothes, send it to enterprises, to sewing factories. Those outfits that designers come up with and create based on their sketches will ultimately be worn by people. Therefore, we understand that our task is to contribute to the development of the fashion industry. It is necessary to develop healthy competition between entrepreneurs, to study the demand of the population, what clothes they need today, what they would like to see, whether they are pleased with the quality, and so on. It is very important to create your own collection of shoes and clothes for our people. Once upon a time, fantastic animals and birds had a deep meaning, expressing the ideas of mankind of how the world worked and what was the place of people in it. And for modern people, these are just beautiful, harmonious objects. Today, Kazakh masters strive to create unique things, similar to those that were once created in a nomadic environment. Sometimes they resort to ornamental art, which stems from the Saka era. Interest in national cultures is increasing in the world. It is becoming a new trend. Our local designers do not lag behind. They widely use national themes and local designs in their works. Consumers welcome this approach. It is inspiring. Here, for example, an ethnic-style outfit. This dress was made by the creator of the brand Dinara, by Dinara Idrissova. Those who make casual clothes also believe that there is a place for ancient ornaments in modern garments too. You can embroider ornaments and decorate casual clothes with suitable threads. There is nothing complicated here. One can even introduce these ornaments in school uniforms or uniforms of kindergarten pupils. If there were such orders, that would be good for sewing production. Many would stop looking for European garments and would wear their own. It seems to me that we can sew our own clothes with national ornaments and wear them. And this, in my opinion, should be a priority in the fashion industry. Famous artist and designer Muslim Jumagaliev studies the art of nomads and the history of traditional Kazakh clothing. He resorts to the ancestors' fashion traditions when creating his own ethnic-styled clothes. In addition, the basis of his works is the archaeological findings of the Saka period. With his Theater of National Traditions, Arlan Jette, the fashion designer traveled to many countries and participated in different international competitions and festivals. His outfits are a clear example of how much the heritage of ancient nomads is in demand today. In the contemporary art, there is a place for another detail of the costume of the ancient nomads. It was a charm, a kind of a pendant. It was found during excavations in the central part of Kazakhstan and in East Kazakhstan. This charm is an element of clothing, a small ball on a cord, which was used to tie up clothes. Back then, warm and thick clothes were worn, which had to be tied up at the collar in order to protect from wind. But it was not just a garter, it was a kind of designer element of the outfit. It could be decorated with gold thread. For the sake of beauty and convenience, the garter could be spiral-shaped. This made the clothes look aesthetically pleasant. Today, the concept of the ancient nomads, who were thought to be undeveloped, backward people, is gradually changing. Now they are seen as the representatives of a complex society with a highly developed economy. And in many respects, the change of perception was influenced by the works of steppe art, including the nomad costume and the Saka animal style. Everyone is familiar with the expression, all but gold, and this is what we can say about the Scythian or Saka animal style. The style was born several millennia ago in the Eurasian steppes, but it is still relevant when it comes to art or the wonderful world of costume.